Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley. Mark, was that good enough for you?
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. So last night we were invited to the Renovo event at the Bulls game, and we were talking. Me and Tom were talking that he hasn't come in hot enough the last couple episodes. So I'm happy you turned it up there.
I'm ready. I've had my afternoon coffee. I'm getting ready for the Lincoln Park Builders Group event tonight. So Theater on the Lake. So I'm excited. I was ready to go, and that was in the back of my head. You've been giving me crap. So I'm glad we had a recording day so I can knock this thing out. Get it off my back.
Man, last night was a good time, man. I've never been to a Bulls game in a suite, so that was awesome for me. I woke up this morning thinking I had a great time.
Yeah, and just there's so many. This universe is so small yet so big. If that makes any sense, like you kind of know everyone, and then you meet someone you don't know, and it's like, oh, this guy's got 50 Airbnb units, or just something crazy where it's like, oh, like there's something I've never thought of, and he's providing for his entire family that way. So it's always nice meeting new people, new perspectives, and just talking shop, right? I don't know, seeing the same faces and new faces. It's every time I leave there, I feel like I am a better investor because of it, because I've made another connection, I've learned something new, etc.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. What was your big takeaway? I think Renault did a great job there. I think there's a lot of heavy hitters in Chicago. We still haven't taled to all of them. We need them on the podcast.
We haven't. I think we had a couple people potentially that we could have on the show from last night, but yeah, no, there's so many people. Eric is great at bringing people together and introducing them. So it was a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're going to give a housing provider tip of the week. One thing I wanted to bring up in today's episode, we talk about yet another fire. So that's 2 in the last 4 episodes. Make sure your smoke detectors are working, have the batteries, make sure you have the fire extinguishers. You do not want to get caught. Real estate works. Just don't get hit. As long as you don't get wiped out, and that's something that can wipe you out. So be insured, cross your T's, dot your I's, be prepared for the worst.
Well, that was my housing provider tip, was along the lines of, now we have the law that require it. Chicago's been for a couple of years now, but these 10-year smoke detectors that are the sealed battery. So you can't you don't have to worry about the tenant pulling that. So if you're doing that and you're making sure you're spending the money on turnovers or on it when you're turning it over, and make sure you're getting that updated, that's the last thing. We've had a couple episodes recently where, when the press starts to get involved and the police, or God forbid there's a death and there's litigation involved, like you need to make sure that your smoke detectors are good to go. And that's in your unit, that's in your common areas, that's maybe in your areas that are closed off, like maybe your boiler room in the basement or something like that. You got to make sure that you have all those things in place, because you don't want to be on the wrong side of those conversations when stuff goes wrong. And if you do this long enough and you have enough property, things will go wrong eventually.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It will happen.
Yes.
So, man, I'm sorry I came in hot, and then I stole your housing provider tip of the week.
I know. We didn't even plan that. That's awesome. I love it. We're on the same wavelength. But today's guest, we had the privilege of managing her property for a year as she planned to sell it. She's an investor-minded realtor who's pretty sharp. She's gone through she started investing before the downturn, and she's gone through she made a lot of the mistakes that a lot of you out there are able not to make because of resources like this, or a place like Bigger Pockets, or different information on the internet. So she goes into some of those lessons learned, and all of that led up to where she's at today, being a landlord and owning and being a great investment broker. So without further ado, I want to introduce Tanisha Blakemore. Tanisha, realtor, investor. I love it. Thanks for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Mark.
You have an awesome background, and we'll dive into that a little. But you spent years doing discovery evidence for the state police. Tell us about how you got into that, and what was cool or exciting, or maybe it's not as sexy as it sounds, but.
So yeah, actually, I worked for Cook County Sheriff Department. I believe that was 2015-ish. I was there for about 3 years. I basically, I handled the discovery for the state's attorneys. So body cam footage, records, photos. I seen some things that I probably did not want to see. And I've seen some people that I know and things that I did not want to know either. So It was a
you gotta
very,
give
it
us,
was
before
an
we jump into the real estate here, give us a horror story. Give us something. Give us something
Yeah.
our listeners can like go, whoa.
You can
um,
protect names for the innocent if you want, but give us something here.
I'm gonna give you names. So two things that I remember most definitely. One, so I used to work at a law firm. I actually seen one of the attorneys that I know in a domestic violence case, which I was very shocked to see because that was not the mannerism that I thought he had, but it was quite shocking. And then probably something that I did want to see. There was an incident when somebody got hit by a train. So I was able to see pictures and things of that nature. So it's pretty cool in a way because I'm like into like the criminal justice thing as well. So getting to see all the evidence and how they record, the evidence was really interesting, but some of the things I'd rather have not seen.
All
Now,
right.
now you got out of that world and you've you've had I think you worked I think you worked for the county. I think you did a few other municipal type things. You got out of that. Your goals to be in real estate. Like, what was your attraction to real estate? You grew up in Chicago, right?
So I actually grew up in Bellwood, but I did live in Chicago on the South Side for about 11 years. I got into real estate actually in my 20s. I was talking to and make this not too long, but I was working with a young lady. I was working at AT&T, and she basically was giving me information on how her mom was a realtor, how she invested in property, and it just kind of caught my attention, and I was just like asking her questions. I ended up connecting with her mom in real estate.
Okay. So what when you say connect in real estate though, what were you thinking, right? Were you looking to be an investor? Were you looking to be an agent? Like, where's your head at here?
So first I wanted to be an agent. I actually went to a community college to take the real estate course. At that time, I was really, really reserved. So when I found out you had to work with people and talk to people, I said this was not the field for me. I was really, really reserved back then. So I kind of got out of that. But hindsight after that, I actually got into the investing part where I purchased my first investment property at 25 with my friend's mom. She was an agent and also a landlord during that time. So that's when I purchased my first investment property. I was 25.
Well, let's dive in because that's young, right? You're 25. You're not really know much in the industry here. First off, where were you looking? Lead us up to that. Like, how many properties did you actually look at beforehand? Like, lead us up to that purchase.
Sure. So during that time, again, like I said, I was raised in Bellwood. So that's where I kind of started my search. And as I look back, we were actually kind of in the same market where we're in now, where it was like the prices was really high, but it was very low inventory. And during that time, the price point that I was looking at, I could not afford in Bellwood. I think at that time it was maybe $300,000 or $400,000. And I had only been approved for about, I think it was like 225-ish. So I had to start looking, in other areas. A lot of my family lives on the South Side. So I was like, why not try the city? So I was familiar with the Auburn Gresham area. And I just started looking there. I kind of looked everywhere, South suburbs. I did a lot of looking. Again, the inventory was really, really low, to a point where I was going to give up. And my agent, she told me at the time, just continue to look, just like a couple of more weeks. And if you don't find anything, we'll just give it a break. And I actually found one on my own, sent her the listing. And the question is always, how do you know that it's your property? This is the one that you want. She told me you'll know. I didn't know what that meant at the time. Now I do. So as soon as I seen the property, I stepped in and she said, you don't want to look anymore. I said, nope, let's get the contract together. I walked in the door. This was my property and I ended up closing on it.
What year was that?
That was 2015.
2015.
All right.
What?
So go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, go on. No, go on.
I was gonna say, how did you know? Right. I have that feeling. Sometimes I walk in. We bought a vacant 6 unit 2 months back, and the second I stepped in there, I was like, "This is mine." Like, we'll figure out the numbers, but this is happening. So
I
there's
don't
certain things that trigger me as well. Like, talk to me. What was it that triggered it for you?
I don't know. It's just the feeling. I can't really explain it because I have my clients, they ask me the same things. And I'll pretty much tell them the same thing. Like, you will know, you will have like this feeling of home, like this is where you should be. And when I seen it, I knew I had to have it. It was renovated. The area was, fairly, it was fairly decent, at least that block was. So I can't really explain deeper than that. It was just a gut feeling. Many of them, you go into properties and like, nope, this not it. But when I walked into this one in particular, I knew that this one was the one I wanted.
All right. So what was the property? Was it single family, 2-unit? What is this?
So it was actually a 2-unit building in the Auburn Gresham area.
Okay. All right. So, and then any horror stories getting to the finish line. So you fall in love with it, you put it under contract. How was the due diligence? How was getting to the closing table? Anything scary to bring up here?
No, the only thing was at the closing table, the mortgage broker that I was working with at the time, he had told me to come to the table with a certain amount of money. And when I got to the table, he told me I needed $2,000, which I did not have at the time. Because I actually got my property doing the subprime lending, so I got financed at 100%. And I really, really wanted this property. So my attorney, she said, Tanisha, leave the room. She asked me, do you really want this property? I said, yes. She said, leave the room and come back in 10 minutes. Because I was kind of like tearing up. And when I came back, I asked her, is everything okay? She said, don't worry about it. We're going to close. I don't know what she did. I don't know what she said. I didn't have to pay any money. We closed. So
that's Chicago, baby.
It's a very Chicago thing. Just the situation was resolved. Move on.
Yeah, the older Italian lady. I really, really appreciated her. It was kind of funny. It was almost like my mom telling me, just like, leave the room, come back in 10 minutes. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know what she said or what she did, but she took care of it. So.
Man, in Chicago, you either leave the room and money shows up, or you leave the room and money goes away. One or the other. Like that always.
Exactly.
So this is 2005. It was kind of the height of the market. Just one more question about kind of the search. Like, we didn't have Redfin, I don't think, is back then, or we weren't able to look at it. Like you said, you found it on your own. Like, how'd you go out? How were you helping supplement whatever your broker was doing for you back then?
Just to Google search. Of course, it wasn't as savvy as it is now. I did look at some of the listings that she sent me back in 2005, but again, it was just searching like realtor.com. I think we didn't have Zillow, I don't think, back then, maybe Trulia, but yeah, just Googling.
Let's just put perspective for people. In 2005, you can only upload to the MLS 7 pictures. So you had to right now, I went out listening the other day, there's literally like 58 pictures plus some crazy 3D floor plan and a Matterport, and you could do 7 pictures and that was it.
Yeah.
All right. So with my usual question, what happens next? You buy the 2-unit, we're rocking and rolling here. What's the next step?
So, so I actually moved in. So at that time, I did not know what house hacking was. I moved out of my mom's house. I moved straight into the property. And then I just started renting out one of the units, actually the second unit, because it had 3 bedrooms. So I figured I could get more money for that one. And from there, again, a lot of research. During that time, Bigger Pockets was, and I hate to mention it, but that was like my go-to resource at that time, because I think that was a major platform for a lot of people that was getting into real estate. And again, just a lot of researching. At that time, we didn't really have social media like we have now. So again, just a lot of digging on how to be a landlord, looking up Chicago tenant ordinance, how to pull credit and all that. It was a lot of research. I had no help at all. So a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, people don't appreciate like what tools they have at their disposal now. Man, I keep making myself sound old, but like 2005, like your self-managing landlord had to kind of figure out like, maybe I got a mortgage guy that could pull a credit report for me or something like that. And that was, those were some of the tools you're working with. So you rented to somebody, but you put an ad on online, or how'd you get your place, that first place rented?
It could go right to Craigslist, man. That's how you did everything.
I would think that was
Exactly.
Craig was still 12 then.
Yes, that's exactly where I went. I listed on Craigslist. So
All right.
I guess I'm telling my age, but yes, Craigslist. That's exactly where I listed a lot of my my listings.
Yeah, I have like clear memories of just, buying whatever Bears tickets or whatever from some dude on Craigslist and like meet him in a Wendy's parking lot and thinking like, there's got to be a better way. No, like something's got to come along here. This is pretty archaic.
Yeah, I used Craigslist for quite some time. Quite some time.
All right, so we have the 2 unit, we got it rented out. Do you stay in the Auburn Gresham area here, right? Like, what are you ready to pull the trigger on the next one? Where's the search? Where's the criteria? Where are you looking? Are you using the brokerage? Walk us through the story here.
So you mean as far as the property that I purchased in 2005 or the next property?
Just what happens next in your life? Take us through 2005 moving forward.
Sure. So, actually moving forward, 2019, actually, my building caught on fire, and that was
Let's back up, because that's awesome. Like, great story to talk about there. But before getting to 2019, like, you go through the crash here. Do you step aside from real estate? Where
no
discouraged? Like, I mean, that was pretty discouraging time based on what we all bought property for in 2005 versus what happened in 2008.
No, actually, well, so the thing is, when I bought my property, the crazy thing was, I was working at AT&T at the time. I was a manager. I was there for about 7 years, and at that time, they were merging with SBC, and so they were talking about layoffs. And unfortunately, because I had just got promoted like that year before, I got laid off literally. So I closed on my property May 19th, 2005. I'll never forget. I got laid off in June. So I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I just bought this building. I'm learning about how to be a landlord. The mortgage is way more than what I could afford by myself. So what am I gonna do? I use a lot of, I pulled my 401k savings. I pretty much maxed out everything. It was really, really hard during that time. We also had the similar to what they had in during COVID, like the rental assistance and things of that nature, mortgage assistance. I applied for those things. So yeah, like for the next maybe 2 or 3 years, it was kind of tough, but I made it through. I had tenants that actually paid on time, which is always a plus. So yeah, and that's pretty much what happened up until, let's see, a lot of tenant stories. One in particular, I had one tenant who had the US Marshals on my doorstep. I was actually living in the property at the time. Very, very scary to find out they had been watching my building for about 2 to 3 months. I didn't know this until after the fact. But this is where it comes into, you have to screen your tenants, you have to, which I thought I did well, but obviously not, because the feds were on my doorstep.
What's the story?
Let's hear it.
Yeah, you can't just skip. You can't go to the next story yet.
And this is, I'm not much sure how much information he could have divulged to me. So apparently my tenant was housing a sex offender in the property, and he had not listed himself. I assumed that it was probably much more than that because the US Marshals was on my doorstep, but that's what he told me. I did not know that was the situation. The officer, he was really, really nice. He basically asked me, had I seen the person? I could only say too much because my tenant was standing behind me. So I was like, nope, haven't seen him.
That's very Chicago too.
Yeah, nope, haven't seen him. And literally after that, the officer called me, asked me, did I have any information? Mentioned I may have seen him in the area.
He do. That's awesome.
But yeah, after that, and unfortunately, she was a Section 8 tenant, so I had to kind of talk to her about that. I did not renew her lease. Thankfully, her lease was just ending within the next like 2 to 3 months. And I basically told her after he left, you know, your lease is not going to be renewed, right? Like, you might as well start packing now because you have the feds on my doorstep. So she tried to take up for the guy. I didn't want to hear the excuses. I don't want the police at my, especially if I'm living here as well. Like, I want it to be safe for me, not only for my tenants, but me as well, you know? So yes, that was that situation. And then 2019, my building caught on fire. That happened because there was an abandoned house next door, which I had been calling the city about to come and tear down because it had been vacant for about maybe 5 years. Investors were coming in and out trying to renovate it. Nobody ever did anything. The neighborhood came and stripped it. So it's basically a frame house. Not sure how it caught on fire, but that house caught on fire, which led to my property being caught on fire because they were so in close proximity. So basically, I had to get the whole apartment building renovated and happened. And so it took about a year before I can even get it started. It happened in December 2019. They didn't finish renovating it until September of 2020.
So anyone, were you there at the property?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, you're living there.
Anyone
Like,
heard? Like, let's
tell us the POV.
No, so what happened was,
walk us through that phone call you got.
Yeah, so it's crazy because I was just I was on the south side visiting my dad. He stayed down in Bronzeville, and he had asked me, like, are you gonna go past the property? You know, whenever I come to the city, I will always just drive, you know, down the street, make sure everything was okay. And I was like, no, I'll be back next weekend, you know, I'll drive past it then. At that time, I had a friend that was actually renting from me. And so after leaving my dad's house, I went straight home. I live in Romeoville. Came home, literally putting my key in the door to come in the house, and my tenant called me and said, T, the building was on fire. And I'm like, oh my God. So I rushed back. At that time, I had another realtor who was helping me manage the property because she lived in the city. She called. I drove back to the south side. News was out. I actually seen it on Channel 7, which was devastating because I'm like, that's my property. But yeah, that was my baby. You know, that was my first building. I had already had it for about 17 years. So yeah, it was very, very devastating. But when I got it renovated, it was brand new. She got a facelift. So it was a very hard situation. I could say the silver lining in the process is I actually wanted to get into rehabbing properties. And so during that time when the company was renovating, I became really cool with the project manager. And so he would let me come into the property and he would talk me through the coding, the inspections, the things that the Chicago inspectors would come out and look for, preventative measures that they put in between the walls for fires in the future, things of that nature. So I actually learned a lot during that process, which has me even more excited about getting into rehabbing in 2024. So
it's funny. We've had a number of fires over the years. That's not the funny part, but you get that call, and they tell you the building's on fire, but there's such a wide definition. I've had, oh my gosh, the whole place is on fire. You go there, it's like a little kitchen fire. You go there and say, yeah, we had a little fire. You go there, you think you're good. You go the next day, the whole back half of the building is like, you got to demo it. Like, so I guess my tip to anybody is like, take that seriously and don't let, like, make sure you go check the place out, no matter how small they think it is. But you weren't living there. You had this fire. Let me ask this question. Like, I think you said it was a blessing in disguise. No one got hurt. Was it a win from the point of it needed updating and this was a way to get updating and it didn't really cost too much? Did that benefit too? Or how updated was the place when you bought it?
Absolutely. So when I purchased the property in 2005, it was actually newly rehabbed as well. So into like 17 years, yes, the building is starting to, show little things of wear and tear, things of that nature. Never to the point where it was going to burn down, but it was beneficial. Like basically they rehabbed the building from top to bottom, you know, excluding the foundation, new roof, siding, all of the insides gutted out. It was mainly the north side of the building that caught on fire and the roof, but you know, just because of the damage, they just pretty much redid everything. So new bathrooms, flooring, painting, walls, plumbing. They updated the electrical box, which we know electrical is very expensive. Make sure it was all up to code. Again, I learned a lot of things during this process, things that I would have not known had this happened. So it was kind of, like I said, a silver lining, though it was a devastating situation.
I imagine. Did you use a public adjuster or did you deal right with the insurance company?
I deal with the insurance company, but I did have a public adjuster come out. I had quite a few of them call me. They are like, what do they call it?
Ambulance chasers.
Ambulance
They're ready.
chasers, yeah.
Yes, they call right away. And when I did end up going with the public adjuster, and they did fairly well for the most part. You know, there were some things, because I am very particular about things. I want them done a certain way, that I had to like kind of become the project manager too at some point, because I wanted things done a certain way. But again, it was public adjusters. I guess they're on those radios, and as soon as they hear fire, they're calling to find out who the owner is. So
them and the board up guys literally have the scanner, and they're waiting for it, man. I've learned about buildings burning from the board up guys before anybody else. It's like, man, the tenants ran out, they went somewhere else, and then I heard it from the board up guys.
Yep, they know.
One last thing on the public adjuster, you know, like you said, yeah, well, first off, I think you should have a relationship. Anyone out there that doesn't have one, you know, there's some in the networking circles in Chicago, but we've talked about it on a couple episodes ago as well too. You should have a relationship with them. But if you were starting a new relationship, keep in mind that percentage is negotiable. They might come at you with a 10% or whatever. But if you have a relationship with somebody, you should be able to, I don't know if you negotiate, but you should get better than not having a relationship with them. So keep that in mind.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. So you also mentioned you were in Romeoville. Yeah, a lot of our listeners, they do the first house hack and they get stuck needing to leave that one. And, you know, hey, I'm not living in the building anymore. Do I need to hire a property manager? Can I do this myself? I'm working a full-time job. It's a question we get a lot. So can you talk to us a little about the decision to not hire a property manager, and how are you able to be successful while, you know, living 30 minutes away in Romeoville?
So actually, I only self-managed for about 15 of the 7 years. 1 year I had a realtor who managed. And then I don't know if I want to do a humble plug, but I met Mark.
All right.
So Mark managed. He managed for me my last year, so that was actually very, very beneficial, because I did not have to to the south side as much as needed. A good decision on my part.
Okay. So those years you were self-managing though, how are you successful? Like how are you able to get this in place when you're, you know, when you got to go up and down 55 to get in the city?
So when I self-managed, I was living in a property. I basically used a lot of Excel spreadsheets. We didn't have a lot of software like we have now. So I used, what are those things? The carbon copy receipt papers for rent. I'm really telling my age, but
you typed out letters.
We didn't
on
have Zelle, so but yeah, so I basically use a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and things that I needed to just manage my tenants for the most part. It was a lot of paperwork, honestly. And I had handymen that I knew on the south side that would come and fix things as I needed them. If I didn't know anybody, I went to Craigslist, looked up plumber, HVAC. If I had family members that knew people, I would reach out. And once I found a good person, I pretty much stuck with them. You know, it's pretty hard to find a really good general contractor, handyman. So when I found one, I stuck with that person.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about you had mentioned we were off air. You bought a lot for $1. Is that correct?
I did.
That's a pretty good deal.
It is a very good deal. um,
You can buy 3 lots or a cup of coffee.
Being in Chicago, I kind of felt like it was something more to it. But again, I did a lot of research, read into it. I first applied, I believe it was in 2017, and you go onto the website and they have a list of lots. So you have to live, I believe it's 2 miles within where the vacant lot is. So at that time I had the property in Auburn Gresham. So I just pretty much researched all of the vacant lots in that area. And the first time I submitted my application, it got rejected because I was missing some documentation. Like, you have to give proof that you actually own property in those neighborhoods or wherever, you're living. So it came around again. They opened it up probably about 6 months later. I applied for another lot and I actually got it. And I closed in 2018. So I went downtown and literally my closing for the lot was $56.
All right, so you pick up a lot in Chicago for $56. What let's go back a little bit here. How did you know about this program? Like, how did this even come across your radar? And is this something that listeners can take advantage of today? Is this still something that is out there?
So, back in the day, I actually used to work for Chicago Police Department. I worked for a lot of government agencies. And so they had some information posted within the police department, and that's pretty much how I found out about the information, researched it, and it kept circulating throughout the years. I finally decided to just move forward with it. Actually, there is still opportunity to purchase. So it used to be largelots.com. It's actually now the website, because I went to go look. It's called chiblockbuilder.com, chiblockbuilder.com. And you just go in, you type in the address where you own properties in Chicago, and it'll give you a list of properties or vacant lots that are available for purchase, or submit your application.
Okay, so that's still out there now, and the requirements are you need to be within 2 miles of you need to reside within 2 miles of the lot that you're looking to purchase. I'm assuming it comes with some not strings attached, but some, you can't just turn around and flip this thing for 5 G's, right? Like, you have to hold the lot to actually build on it. Like, what are the requirements?
So I believe you have to hold it for 5 years. I think I'm past that 5-year mark before you can actually sell it. So generally what a lot of people did, they created like neighborhood gardens, sitting areas, for the neighborhood. Me personally, just because where my property is located, I have not done anything. I just keep the grass cut. I'm waiting for the neighborhood to take a turn. Eventually, I do want to build on it. I am looking into getting into that hopefully next year. I'm just waiting to see what this market is going to do, what the economy is like, because it's very expensive to actually build in Chicago. So just trying to wait it out and see what I want to do with it.
So I imagine there's some benefits on the tax side of things. You got some expenses. It technically operates at a loss against your W-2 income. So are you recognizing that on your returns?
Yes, absolutely. So I do pay property taxes. For this particular lot, they are about no more than $500 or $600 a year. So not too bad. I write that off. I also write off, lawn service, just keeping the upkeep, because one of the requirements is you have to, once you purchase the lot, they give you, I can't remember, I think it was maybe 90 days to actually secure the property with a non-combustible gate. So I had to get a survey done to figure out where my actual lines were on that lot. And then, which was about $600 or $700 for the survey. And then I had a company come out and put up a fence. So you have to keep the fence, you have to have it fenced, sorry, and then you have to maintain the lot as well. So keeping the grass cut or whatever. So that's what I pretty much do.
The survey company I've used for the last 20 years is LR Pass, and they're actually located at 79th and Racine, not far from your property. Coincidentally, I don't know if that's who you use, but they've always done me good. All right, 2019 rolls. You decide to get your license. Talk to me about what finally got you to get your real estate license, and I guess more importantly, how has everything you've gone through made you a better realtor here?
Absolutely. So 2019, so previous to that, I had a friend who she's been a realtor for about 20 something years from Chicago. She actually lives in Tampa now, but at that time, we would always talk about real estate. Well, I would always bring up real estate, and she used to tell me, Tanisha, why don't you just go get your license? And I'm like, I don't want to talk to people. Like, I just, again, that whole salesy thing, like I just did not want to do it. But she just kind of convinced me. She said, just get your license and just see how you like it. And I did it. It took me a couple of times to pass, but I got it. And I have loved it ever since. I love the opportunity to actually help people purchase property. Because one, me being so young, purchasing property, I had no idea what I was doing at the time. It sounded good. Money was involved. And so I just did it, but I don't think I was fully educated. So now being a realtor on the other side, I'm able to educate people on purchasing property, getting into investment property and things of that nature. So I've been licensed.
You do quite a lot of marketing. I know stuff's always hit in my inbox, and hopefully in one of your newsletters, maybe you'll promote this podcast that you're on. But why do you do so much on the marketing side, or what promotes that? I mean, a lot of agents just kind of hope business comes to them. What was your motivation, I guess?
So when I first became licensed, the agency or the brokerage that I was with, one thing they always instilled in the newer agents, don't be a secret agent. Sounds funny, but it's the truth. Like, nobody is gonna know that you're an agent unless you promote yourself. So I'm always on social media. I'm on Instagram all the time. Also on Facebook, sending email blast out, just promoting what I do, because I do want to help people. Buying a house is not like going to Target. It's a very big purchase. And, I really want people to be educated, especially with the market changing, with the pricing, rates, as we know. So I always want to just, educate the people that I know, or, if they know people that are looking to purchase, I want to be that go-to person, to help people achieve their dream of purchasing a home or even an investment property.
Good stuff. So give us an outlook for Auburn Gresham, right? You've seen it change. You got in 2005. You've seen some of the changes. Where are you bullish there? Are you directing your clients? Like, just for someone who doesn't know the area, just give your take on where it's been and where do you think it's going?
So I am not in the area as of now, but when I do go back to the area, because I do still frequent the South Side often, I have noticed a great change from the time when I purchased my property up until now. They have done a lot of building. They put in a Planet Fitness that has been there for a while. They had put a Lowe's, Walmart, just a lot of restaurants, even around 87th and the Dan Ryan. They just have been doing a lot of building. Now, some of the research that I have been doing over the years still is that there was a program called, I believe it's called Invest South, where Chicago is now renovating or regentrifying, mainly 79th and Halsted, which is in the Auburn Gresham area. And they are building a lot of mixed income, homes or apartment buildings, shopping, things of that nature. So those are the things that are happening. I also just found out from someone that I know that because there's a metro that runs on Vincennes in 87, they're going to be building a metro parking lot or garage, which is very well needed because I did free that metro a lot when I worked downtown. Changing, people are moving into the neighborhood. I have seen, even with doing research, there have been homes that have sold $300,000. I was very shocked to see that price point in that area, but people are buying in that area as the neighborhoods are changing. So I definitely think that people should invest in Auburn Gresham, as it being another area that's being regentrified. And for myself, I probably will be purchasing again in the future.
Good stuff. All right, Mark, are you ready to wrap?
I'm ready. The question is Tanisha ready for the wrap-up questions? See how prepared she is.
I think I'm prepared.
All right.
Shoot.
Let's see if you're a real listener. No, I know you are. I'm joking. All right, cool.
Okay.
What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this while so many others wish they could?
I'll say this. I'm very overly ambitious. I don't like no's. I don't care how many no's you give me. I'm going to turn it into a yes. So that alone, it just gives me motivation to keep going, and not let anything pretty much stop me. Especially after experiencing the fire. Sorry. That was something I never thought that I would experience. And to get through that lets me know, like, I could pretty much get through anything, because that was a big deal to me.
What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that is yet to buy their first property here in Chicago?
I would say invest and get started. Don't ponder on it. Don't overanalyze. Get to it. Find a good realtor like myself that will educate you, and just get to it. The market is ever changing, but never be scared to jump in. It's gonna always change. It's gonna be ups and downs, but don't let that discourage you from getting property, because it's benefit in it. I saw that after I sold my building. So,
all right, what do you do for fun?
I travel. I love to travel. I think traveling is probably the best history book that you can ever read. I love going overseas. That's probably one of my favorite places is Rome that I've been. So I absolutely love traveling.
That's awesome.
All right, what is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you'd recommend to our listeners?
My favorite book, a very short read, you could probably read it in a couple of hours, is The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yep.
I absolutely love that book. I read it over and over whenever I need a little refresher on where to put my money.
All right. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other Chicago investors.
The person that I would recommend is Jonathan Claim, or Claim. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Clem, you're good.
I had actually met him or spoke to him a couple of years back. I will be connecting with him in the future. He doesn't know that, but he knows that now. But he's a wealth of knowledge. I follow him as well on social media. Really, really a wealth of information. So he was somebody I actually talked about building on that vacant lot. So good contact.
All right. I believe we have Jonathan Clem, episode 250 and episode 76 for our listeners who haven't heard him before. So go back and hear his story.
I don't know when this is going to air, but December 15th is his Christmas party that he's getting some of the other groups together, and we get to sponsor that. So I
believe it's the 14th.
No, I got an email and today. It was the 15th, so I sent it to have it changed in my calendar. I thought it was
after, so we don't confuse anyone.
All right, Google it up. Don't show up on the 14th, so you know.
I might have to pop into the part. Is this a request or invite only?
No, I think everyone's
it's out there. It's out in the wild.
You put it on Bigger Pockets this morning. That's where I saw it.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, if this airs before, then we'll link to it with the actual correct date. Maybe.
Yeah.
No promises. So, Tanisha, thank you very much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Absolutely. Well, they can reach me at TanishaBlakemore.com or at Tanisha B. Moore on Instagram. How to provide more value to me? Come with questions, feedback, collaborations. I am here to help as much as I can to my listeners or people in the neighborhoods to help. So yeah, basically questions, collaborations, support. That would be a great help.
All right. Mark, we had a Chicago fact. Our guests have been on a little bit of a heater. No pressure, Tanisha. Who are we playing for? Who's sponsoring?
All right. So our sponsor today is Patrick P from Assured Partners. We're playing for Pete Drady. Pete Drady bought a t-shirt. And Pete, if myself or Tanisha gets the Chicago fact right, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by Patrick P at Assured Partners.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So we've been talking about Auburn Gresham. Mark, it's the site of the first, and here are your options: Southside St. Patrick's Day Parade, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Bud Billigan Parade, or Mexican Independence Day Parade. It was the site of the first. Which one of those parades?
Bud Billiken Parade?
Are you going Bud Billiken? Mark, where are you going?
I'll go with Bud Billiken Parade, I guess.
Well, that's what she said.
Oh, that's what she said. That's what she said. All right, you Bud Billiken, you go with that. I will go with St. Pat's.
There you go. The Bud Billiken was too obvious. It is. They were the site of the first Southside St. Patrick's Day Parade.
All right. You mean I got it right? Yes.
You got it right. You weren't going to get it right. You
yeah.
You set the guess out to dry there.
All
1 second's easier.
All right, Pete Drady, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by Patrick P at Assured Partners. Thanks to I finally got one right. So, Tanisha, man, I'm super grateful you came on. I know we had to cancel on you a couple of times, so I'm happy we were able to put this together and have you on here. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, check out Build Your Team. We talked a lot about this being a team sport. We try to put together people that we know you could trust and not have to test out or not get screwed by. And you go straight up chicagoinvestor.com. Right on the homepage, Build Your Team really big. Click on that and check it out. Tanisha, thank you again. Tom, thank you as always. And listeners, we'll see you next week.
Thanks all.
Thank you.